In the last episode, I began transforming this small loo but ran into some pretty major issues with plumbing. If you want to catch up on those first, then go back and watch episode 1. These issues set me back with the time, but I got them sorted, so now it's time to dress the room and make it look pretty. I wanted to add a traditional style windowsill. I removed the existing tile and measured up what I'd need to cut. I'm using an MDF bullnose window board from B&Q, which has that pre-rounded bullnose edge. This just means I don't have to mess around with rounding the edge by myself, but if you can't find a bullnose board, you can definitely use a router to do this as well. I'm just triple checking all of my measurements because this is a pretty complex thing to do, and I don't want to miscalculate and then cut it and just realise that was so stupid, Shada. You should have just double checked your measurements or calculated again. So I'm going to go back, put this against the window and see if it looks about right, and if it is, I'll come back and cut these 2 parts out. I really wanted to make this windowsill look like it had been part of the house forever. This is actually how the rest of the windowsills look in the house as well. So to achieve this built into the wall feel, I cut out some excess wood and left an overhang of 4 centimetres each side of the windowsill. I wanted to continue that bullnose edge effect on the side as well, so I used my sander to create rounded edges. Once I was happy with how it looked, I secured it in place with some adhesive and some screws, wood filled and caulked any gaps and edges to get a really smooth finish. I then used the Dulux primer and undercoat for multi-surface. I love this stuff so much. Priming your MDF seals it and it gives a really good base for any further paint that you want to put on top. I was actually a little bit surprised how easy this project was and how good it looked by the end of it. It really added to the classic look we were trying to go for in the room. This next project, however, wasn't so easy, and if you want more detail about this, then head over to my Instagram to the highlights I have saved called Another Loo Transformation. But for this video, I'm going to show you the general process of how we achieved the Undersink storage cabinet. At this point, it was 40 degrees Celsius, some of the hottest days that we had in the summer, and I was really struggling with this project and recording everything. But what you see me doing here is using some stronger wood to create the body and carcass of the Undersink storage that we had. The wood that I used before was quite thin and not very good quality wood, so I went to my local timber merchants and they hooked me up with some good quality wood and we were able to build a really strong carcass. And to join it all together, I decided to try out pocket holes for the first time. If you don't know, a pocket hole is one of the strongest ways you can join up 2 pieces of wood together, and let me tell you, it is one of my new favourite ways to do any woodworking, so I will be doing that from now on. And as you can see, I built a pretty sturdy carcass, and that was the bones for the rest of the cabinet. I attached the carcass to the wall and used some MDF to panel out and cover it all up so that I could go in with some paint afterwards. But I then decided that I wanted to use some trim to give it a kind of shaker style look and make it look like it was more bespoke and, you know, some thought had gone into it. Again, I went in with a primer and undercoat. I added some hinges to the door, secured that all in place and added a new doorknob. And I'm really chuffed with how this turned out. Not only does it cover some of the ugly pipes that we had underneath the sink, we now have some extra storage for loo rolls or extra hand soaps, etc. There's ample space underneath if we need to access the plumbing for any reason, or we can actually take the whole unit off with just a couple of screws, which I'm really happy about. I wanted to add a wood top to finish off the undersink storage. I got my local timber merchants to plane some wood so it was really smooth. This is just some wood all glued together, by the way, to create kind of like a butcher's block moment. It doesn't need to be anything special. You could actually do this all at home on your own. I then went back and forth numerous times to cut it to the shape that I wanted. You may notice I had to cut a round edge in the middle because our sink is round underneath, which was a little bit annoying, but we got there in the end. My favourite moment of all was adding this French oak satin varnish from Windowsill to the wood. But oh my god, I love this so much. I love the tone of this, the warmth that it brings, and when you see it at the end, it is going to just pull everything together. It really, really adds some lovely character to the room. So simple to use. Sanded the wood down, added 3 or 4 coats of this varnish, and then sealed it all off with a polyurethane lacquer. Just look how satisfying that is, and look how gorgeous that colour is. I used Next's Ultimate Paint in the colour Warm Cream to paint the panelling, and then it was time to do some wallpapering. When going in with your first sheet of wallpaper, start with a plumb line to line the wallpaper up against. A plumb line is just a perfectly straight vertical line from the top of the wall down to the bottom, and it just allows you to make sure that you're hanging your wallpaper perfectly straight. I have a laser level which I use on most of my projects, and it's fantastic. I'll leave a link down below for you in case you're interested, but you can quite easily just use a normal large spirit level and a pencil and ruler to get that plumb line. Mix up your paste depending on whatever the instructions are, but just make sure there are no lumps and bumps. You want it to be a consistency somewhere in the middle, not too thick and definitely not too thin. I usually use a larger paste brush to paste the majority of the wall, and then I go in with an old paintbrush just to do the edges so that it doesn't get too messy. Lay up your first piece of wallpaper against that plumb line and remove any air bubbles from underneath the wallpaper. Now, using a very sharp Stanley blade, you can cut your wallpaper, but let me tell you, if that blade is not sharp, you will make your life 10 times more difficult. You'll end up ripping the wallpaper and becoming very frustrated. So just use a very sharp Stanley blade and make sure you replace that blade every few sheets of wallpaper just so that it's remaining sharp. Wipe off any excess with a damp cloth and you're good to go. Carry on the rest of the room. So much love in a touch. Show my gratitude. Every time we touch, girl, it's we're so divine, yeah. And every time we try so hard to blow each other's mind. I usually use a wallpaper roller to get any seams between the wallpaper strips perfect. And I also do any little touch-ups with a small paintbrush in case some of the paste is dried out. This will stop it lifting in the future. Wallpaper in this room, it didn't take too long, maybe about 3 hours. A lot of it was held up by wallpapering around windows and stuff. There is a term called splicing. I don't have any footage of me doing the splicing here. However, you will find this if you search on YouTube or Google it. It is so simple to do, and it made wallpapering around the windows so much more easy than I thought it was going to be. I'm using my new Bosch detector to make sure that there are no pipes or electrics behind where I want to drill for the new mirror. And I also decided to try out my Wolfcraft drill dust catcher, which worked out a treat, but if you don't have this, then you can definitely use a bottom of a milk carton. I've seen that done plenty of times, or an envelope stuck to the wall, but this was really, really good. Didn't drill that one in properly somehow, I don't know, but I'm just putting a screw in halfway through to then be able to pull out the, what do you call it, what is this? To pull out the, what the flip are these called? Oh, that's not good because they have thingies. How do you remove these then? That is actually the wall coming out now. I had a very slight issue with trying to remove one of the wall plugs. The wall plugs were just too good. So I'll leave those linked down below for you in case you're looking for some really good wall plugs. In the end, it didn't end up being a problem. I put up the mirror and the room transformation is now finished. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a massive thumbs up, leave me a comment, and make sure you subscribe because we are moving house in the next few weeks to a reno, and there's going to be so much more DIY content coming your way. But for now, here she is in all her glory, the LOO transformation.